There is something extremely concerning going on right now, and it's all over the Western world, and that is the demonization of men. There has never been a time in history where men are more hated than they are now, and the finger is squarely pointed at the most vulnerable of men, and that is young men. You see, there are people all over the world blaming young men for everything that seems to be wrong in the world at the moment. We are not hiding from the fact that men sometimes do horrible things, but is the way to combat that look in the eyes of young people and tell them that they are inherently bad? I don't think it is. And right now there is this movement, particularly in my country, but I see it all over the world, of really trying to push these young people down and take everything that comes to them naturally and demand that they hide it. What we're going to take a look at today is a longer video, and I really encourage you to stay around for the entire thing. I haven't seen this before, but I've been told that it's pretty explosive. It's a part of something called Compass, government funded. I want you to remember that. Your taxpayer dollars, even if you're not in Australia, okay, this happens all over the world. Your money goes to the government to do things that you absolutely disagree with or you think are just outrageous. This video is called How the Manosphere, this idea that young men are being brought into this world of misogyny, is fueling teen misogyny inside Australian schools, blaming young men for the horrific actions of older men. And I imagine this video is all about blaming young men. And I feel like that is just such a horrific thing to do to someone so young and so impressionable. To be told that you're inherently bad is awful. Like if you're a dog, I've said this before, if you're a dog and you're treated like you're an aggressive, terrifying dog your entire life, well, you're probably going to start emulating that shit. And we don't want that at all. Masculinity can be toxic. So can femininity. But moreover, people tend to be the ones that are inherently bad or good. Let's take a look at the video. It is a long one, as I said, so please stick with it. Let's see what it's got to say.
There's something disturbing going on in our schools.
In every school and every postcode, rape jokes and rape threats are completely and utterly normalised.
I don't know who that dude is, but let me tell you this about those type of jokes, okay? The only people that ever will get laughs about a joke about that R word are people who would never do those type of things. Because when we laugh at something, we only find it funny, unless we're a complete psycho, we only find it funny if we know that it's not true. If you at school or on stage or on a video tell a joke about ending someone's life, people are only going to laugh. It's only going to be a good joke if they know you didn't do that thing. And it's the same with those type of R-word jokes. Now, I'm not going to defend or say that all R-word jokes are good, but some are, okay? So don't paint every joke with the same brush, right?
Teenage boys are being bombarded with toxic narratives around masculinity and the opposite sex.
This movement is just their fault.
So I think this is going to be really centered around Andrew Tate.
Like hatred.
It starts on social media.
Some are, there are influencers out there who are really negative about women, and that's not good. Like, it's just ridiculous. We should be all very confident in the fact that someone's gender has nothing to do with who they are and whether or not we're friends with them or polite to them or nice to them. It's all about who they are. And when I say that, I obviously mean if we don't like someone, we don't go out there and do horrible things. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is this idea that women are the enemy is crazy. But women have that vision about men. So it makes sense that men have that vision about women. And I think that's this whole negativity spiral that's happening. Two wrongs don't make a right. It's as simple as that. If you have men that hate women, you don't combat that with women that hate men. It's terrible. It's awful. It's negative and it's toxic.
But misogyny is mounting in classrooms.
Why was it that these 14-year-old boys were sort of really, getting to me?
Is it mounting in classrooms? Is it worse? I'd love to know. I mean, obviously, I haven't been in school. I finished school in 2011, so it's been a long time since I've been in school. I imagine it's changed. Like a whole generation of kids from, kindergarten to finishing high school have come through and gone on to university and stuff since I've been there. But has it gotten worse? I think back to my schooling days and they weren't that bad. Like, are we just a little bit softer? Is that the problem?
In a primary school setting, boys make sexualized groaning noises as teachers walk past.
Female teachers are leaving the profession.
Okay, if kids are doing that, I imagine they're in grade 5, grade 6, year 5, year 6, whatever, wherever you're from in the world. They're doing it because they're trying to be funny. And they've probably got an older brother or something like that, or they've heard someone make a noise or whatever. Or maybe they've heard their parents go and hammer and tong. I don't know. But is that really misogyny? Like, it's rude. It's not nice. I wouldn't do it to someone walking past me. But these are things we learn as we get older. You can't expect kids, all right, the same people that eat sand, to not do ridiculous things just because they find it funny. Like, you can't expect that shit, okay? And this isn't all people of that age, young people of that age, young men of that age, all right? It's just a select group of little dickheads that think they're being funny. And they will learn as time goes on, hopefully with the right role models, that everything that they do is not that funny. And sometimes we don't do those things in polite society. But it doesn't mean that they're misogynist pieces of shit.
Female teachers are leaving the profession, and female students are on the front lines.
Fuck, they're going to war at school.
One of them would be crying every day before she had to go to school because she didn't feel safe in her classroom.
Well, I'd like to hear more about that, but that's horrible.
Parents, and in fact all of us, are struggling to keep up with the manipulative algorithms pushed out by big tech.
I agree. My Instagram fucking algorithm at the moment is just tits and buttholes. What's going on? It probably says more about me than anything else. Boobs and buttholes makes me sick.
Children have these billion-dollar and trillion-dollar industries weaponizing their limbic systems against them.
So how can we tackle this complex issue without alienating boys or pushing them further into the manosphere?
She has the worst name of all time. Who names their child Siobhan? It's the hardest name to spell. It doesn't sound anything like it looks. It makes me sick, Siobhan. Although, am I going to get accused of fucking misogyny there? Because Jesus. Hijacking adolescents. Oh, they've used the word from the TV show on Netflix that was very popular. Well done.
What the was that?
Great show, and really, it was amazingly filmed with one shot per episode. Unbelievable. Great
the
actor.
Netflix drama Adolescence cast an international spotlight on teen misogyny.
It's not like he's gonna have his
With gritty realism and compelling performances, the UK series depicted the radicalisation of a 13-year-old schoolboy and chilled parents to the core.
Did it? I think it just showed a little psycho. I don't know if he was radicalised in the show. Now, I know the show was a few months ago. I can't completely remember exactly everything about it. But did it ever say or show anything about him watching things online or being dragged into this manosphere? I might be wrong. Let me know in the comments.
I've been invited to a Brisbane boys' school that's tackling these issues head-on.
Have you ever had like a little bot or little pop-up that's like, hi, I'm Sarah, I'm 3Ks away and I can be your dirty little secret tonight?
Yes, and Sarah and I are now in love. Thank you, sir.
They've brought in educator Daniel Principe to chat with the Year 8s.
Let's tell me, where do you see a lot of this stuff? Games? Yep. Instagram? Yep. Pop-ups on top of school resources. Wow. Okay. Who has seen, put your hand up if you've seen something on socials where a man or a group of men are telling a woman or a group of women, get back in the kitchen, go make me a sandwich. Who's seen that in their social media?
The kid laughing. He might have posted it. No, he didn't. He's a good boy. Yeah, I mean, okay, so it's not nice to say things like that to women or about women. It's not good to say, get back in the kitchen or you deserve to be in the kitchen, all that type of stuff. But usually, when a guy says that, he's fucking around. He's not being real. And I think that's the problem with all of this. They're conflating everything that a man or a young boy says with exactly how they believe. Now, the idea, I think this comes from when they say there's always truth in jokes. Behind every joke is some truth. Now, if you look that up, which I just did to remember the saying because I'm a fucking idiot, you'll see resources and links and stories about how much truth is often in jokes. I think back at my career, and a lot of the things that I've gotten in trouble for, I didn't mean at all. I said them because they were outrageous, not because I thought they were real or truthful. Think back to, there was a horrific jumping castle accident where some kids died in Tasmania a few years ago. Awful. I made a joke about that because I'm a comedian and I was in town at the time. I know, piece of shit, right? But that is my job. A horrible, the most awful experience for a town and people and parents I can't even imagine. And I'm still so sorry for your loss. But when I make a wisecrack about that, the joke wasn't even that good. But when I make a wisecrack about that, it's not because I'm happy that this happened. It's not because I think it's a funny thing, but it's because it's the most outrageous thing to say at that time. And that, I think, is what young boys do a lot. And I only know this from my own experience, that dudes just seem to have a better sense of humor. Now, I know there's a lot of ladies that watch this channel. Hello, how you going? How's your periods? But the vast majority of women, and I take my wife, for example, the funniest person I know. Okay, she's fucking hilarious. She's written a lot of my jokes, all that type of stuff. But when she had our son, and this is why this video is so important to me, because I have a young son. When she had him, the government here in Australia puts you in a mother's group, puts you in touch with all these other women that you have nothing else in common with other than you got a baby pushed out of you just recently. And she found that going to these mothers groups and hanging out with these women, absolutely boring as batshit. Like, none of them had senses of humor. None of them cracked jokes. They were just all there complaining and bitching about their husbands. And that was it. And I find that that is very, very common with ladies. You just don't really get humor. So maybe this is where the problem comes from. Maybe we don't need to change the manosphere. Maybe we need to change the female sphere and introduce them to a bit of stand-up comedy and fucking give them a sense of humor. That might help.
What's so tragic is like they're hearing these voices that are whipping up suspicion at best and disdain at worst for the other sex.
Now, my issue with what he says there is I would probably be included in people who are whipping up suspicion, because I've said things like the wage gap isn't real, okay? Because the government and people in the media say that men and women paid differently based on their sex, which is just not true, okay? Empirically, it is not true. What is true there is women get paid less over a period of time and on average because of job choices and the fact that most women have babies. They had to take time off. Now, that is a problem that we probably should sort out, and those ladies should probably get more money for maternity leave, all that type of stuff, to make it sure that the rest of their lives they don't have to have this big hole in their pocket that was made when they reproduced. But that's not the world we live in right now, and that's just reality. It's not based on sexism or misogyny. It's just based on the fact that when you're not working, you don't get paid. Point being, me saying that means that I'm part of the manosphere or the right-wing pipeline, which I don't think is an insult, really. I think more and more people are becoming more and more right-wing because the current right-wing is actually just like centrist politics more than anything else.
I don't think we should be surprised if these attitudes then leak out in what some boys do, because that is the diet that they've been served up. These toxic voices who, and sadly, the algorithm...
I agree, there are toxic voices. Do not get me wrong, on both sides. For women, Abby Chatfield. For men, Andrew Tate.
Obviously, send more content to them.
Women biologically crave dominance from men.
Grab your nuts, realize these girls are very simple.
Treat them like shit. And no, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, that's horrible. Don't listen to these people.
Boys, can I have your attention? What you believe about these topics, it matters a lot.
Daniel sees how these beliefs are showing up in schools.
You watch how boys will not take an instruction or an order from female staff, but then if a male staff says something,
because they're scared.
Respond.
That I would fuck around more probably with female teachers. Not all of them. Some of them I was scared of. I think when you're a kid, it's the same with your parents. It depends how scared you are. That's who you're listening to, right? But I think that's more like, oh, watch out when dad comes home. Not that, like, I don't think that's a great thing to do too, because when your dad gets home from work, you're then scared of him punishing you. That's not a great entrance back into the house. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. When you are a young person and you're at school and you see a teacher that is this giant dude and he's yelling at you to shut up, you're probably going to shut up. But if it's this little lady, you're going to go, fuck off, love. Maybe not in primary school, you're not going to say that. But in high school, you probably would.
The first class I ever had, one of the male students just got out his iPhone and started filming me. And I had no idea what to do about it.
You all right? That's not good. Like, don't film me, but still.
Like, they will absolutely assert their dominance, and then it's you and them. And once the kids smell fear, then, you know, you're kind of done for.
No, they're just fucking... Are you a parent, lady? You know what kids say. They're not scared of you. And probably this is because you don't have proper punishments. It's the same with the police. Okay, this is a great example. Go me. Kids. You see kids running around on these electric scooters and all this type of shit. They're doing fucking wheelies and knocking over old people. They're not scared. All the ones that go and steal cars. They're not scared of the police because the police have no power. Let me assume that you, as a teacher, have very little power. Meaning, why would they be scared of you? The only reason they're going to be scared of a teacher is with a physical threat, I guess. Like they're scared of a big, scary teacher. Or if you're a loud, cranky lady. There were some teachers that I was scared of that were female. But the men often are scarier. If you don't have anything to threaten them with, why would they be worried? They're probably not scared of their parents either. Or maybe they're really scared of their parents and that's why they act out at school. And I think that's just part of being a teacher. Fucking deal with it. That's the job, mate. You got to deal with these little shits. All right? How many high school kids have you seen in the real world who are doing dumb shit at a shopping center or at a takeaway shop or whatever? They're doing dumb shit. They're painful. They're annoying. Imagine being a teacher dealing with that shit all day. You don't deserve more money, teachers. You chose a shit career. I know it's easy to get into, and shout out to the teachers, but fuck that noise. Fuck that.
It's not just teenagers trying to assert dominance.
I've experienced misogyny and sexism as a primary school teacher in students as young as kindergarten.
Okay. It better be pretty bad if you're going to make that claim. I'm very interested to see what she says.
Meg has been teaching for more than a decade.
Why are the kindergarten kids in the manosphere?
And she says this sort of behaviour is getting worse.
Are they watching Andrew Tate, these kindergarten kids?
I've been called a bitch, a bitch.
Get over it, Meg. These are kids saying horrible shit.
Dog, slut.
Dog C. Slut's not cool. But obviously that young dude's hearing that at home. That's not okay. That's not good at all.
I've been told to suck male students. Suck my.
Okay, these are obviously kids with issues, right? And they're saying outrageous things that they know they're not supposed to say. Are they misogynists or are they just kids pushing the boundaries and they're probably brought up by fucking
sexualized moaning sounds? I definitely felt kind of a bit scared. Like,
don't get me wrong. Like, she has to go to work and that's her job and she has to deal with that. That's not good. But so do a lot of people. People who work in jails have to deal with fucking idiots. It's like being at school. It's the same thing, right? People who deal with like kids who have been removed from homes, like really cranky, angry kids. Like they have to deal with all this shit too.
A bit like, how do you know that? How at 10 do you feel so confident to be able to say that to an adult in a school context?
Probably because their dumb parents gave them a phone at 10 years old and they're talking shit to their friends. But like, go into a chat room on Call of Duty, you'll hear all this horrible shit. People say horrible things, all right? And they say it to teachers all the time. If a young kid says, suck me off or whatever he fucking says, like that doesn't mean that he's a violent misogynist or he's going to beat women. It just means he's saying dumb things that he heard some stupid adult say. That's what it means. They're just repeating shit. Is that the manosphere? Maybe. I don't know. Depends where the kid heard it. He probably heard it at home. And that's why being a really good, involved, positive role model as a man for your kids is so very important. But that's a whole nother subject. We might get to that later in the video. But I don't know. I don't like that this lady had to deal with this shit. But it's part and parcel with the job. Kids say horrible things and they're always going to because they know those words are outrageous.
Meg's experiences are echoed by primary and high school teachers around the country. Some fear that speaking publicly could cost them their jobs.
I love the scary music being played in the background, like these kindergarten misogynists are going to come after everybody.
I announced my pregnancy to a Year 9 class. One male student said it wasn't possible for me to be pregnant because I was so ugly no one would even me.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Obviously, that kid was in one of the, how do I say this, lower socioeconomic classes. That's a fucked up kid. I knew kids when I was at school that would throw rocks at windows. And there was this kid, I remember one day, we were up in biology class and he just started pegging rocks at the principal. There's fucking kids out there. That doesn't mean that all men are violent misogynists or the young boys are going to be violent misogynists or we need to have a crackdown on toxic masculinity in schools. There's just some fucking full-blown out there. That's the honest truth.
I asked a student to stop spilling water on the table. He said, "How wet do you get, miss?"
Oh, gross. Again, it's hard.
I had a Year 9 boy do a creative writing exercise that basically described an act of gang towards me.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Obviously, these are the worst examples. Sure. But does this mean that all of these boys, well, these boys are probably pieces of shit, but all of the boys in general in the class are inherently bad? No, it still doesn't mean that.
When I was heavily pregnant, male students would get scissors and pretend to faux stab me. There were no consequences because all they have to say is, "I was joking, she can't take a joke."
No, there should be consequences to that shit. Young boys need to learn what is okay and what is not okay. And this is another failure of the education system in this country and most countries. Well, the worst you're going to get is what? A phone call home or a detention? Who gives a shit? All right? These people need to be properly punished. But also, how do you punish kids, I guess? But you can't do that shit. You shouldn't do that shit. And I guess the only way to stop them doing that shit is by replacing any of these toxic men in their lives, or at least replacing their influence. You know, I'm not just saying about the Andrew Tates or these masculinity influencers or whatever. I'm talking about, and I shouldn't even say that because there's a lot of masculine men who are influencers or creators online who have very good outlooks on everything. So I shouldn't say that, but I think that these young boys need better father figures. I think that's what it all comes down to. And I think every generation, I wrote about this in my book, Better Man. Every generation we get progressively better as men. You know, I'm better than my father's generation, my father's generation better than his father's generation, and so on and so forth. And we just need to make sure we keep doing that. And that doesn't mean becoming really progressive and woke. No, that just means becoming better people every time. This generation of men are more involved with their kids than anyone ever before. And I guarantee you that's going to have a flow-on effect with those young boys and those young girls who are kids now, and they're going to have that impact on their children. And it's going to be this positivity loop that goes rather than this negative loop. And I think that's fantastic.
Many teachers say girls are becoming quieter in class to avoid the attention of certain boys.
Is that happening more, or is that just always sort of happened? Like you don't want to draw attention to the fucking spastics in the class.
They would take photos of girls' asses when they would go up to ask a teacher a question or write something on
Is this the
board.
rise of misogyny, or is this just the fact that we now have more and more phones in classes? But then again, we had that when I was a kid at school and we didn't do that shit. I don't know what it is. Maybe there is this influence. Maybe because I feel like I'm not a misogynist piece of shit. That doesn't mean that I'm not exposed to the algorithm that some of these kids are exposed to. There could be a lot of negativity around a lot of these people. Anyone who thinks that it's okay to take a photo of a girl or a boy or anyone without their knowledge is a piece of shit. And that needs to be addressed. I don't know how, but they should be absolutely punished and investigated by the police for shit like that. But then again, what are the police going to do? I guess that's the whole issue, right? There's no actual punishments for these people. What do? You just need to teach them that this is inappropriate behavior. And you may say that they should know that inherently, and they probably should. I'd like to think that I knew that inherently, and I knew that before I was taught that it's not okay to take photos of asses. But maybe some of them do, or maybe some of them, where do they even get that? I don't know. Who the fuck thinks that is okay? We have to go back to the whole idea that some kids are just fucking gross and stupid and dumb. That has to be it, right? And some, of course, are misogynistic thugs, because every man who's ever hit a woman, ever ended the life of a woman, or ever made women feel uncomfortable, was once a child. They once did exist. And that's not what I'm trying to argue in this video. I'm not trying to say that misogyny doesn't exist. No, I'm not trying to say any of that. All I'm saying is you shouldn't lump all men in together and punish all boys and make them think that they are inherently bad people just because of something they can't control, like their gender. That's what I'm saying. There needs to be nuance to this conversation, and there's not.
And they would have their phones underneath the table.
That's horrific.
She says her grade was rocked when it was revealed that boys were sexualizing girls in a Snapchat group.
From what we know, it was a lot of comments on girls in my year level's bodies, ranking them in terms of attractiveness, in terms of whose boobs were better, whose ass was better.
That is pretty common, right? Like, I know that's pretty horrible to look, and I know what she's going to say, I think. At the end of it, like, there was like a list of like the ones that aren't even worth R-wording, which is horrible. Obviously, those kids don't mean that, but it sounds terrible. The girls would probably do the same thing about the boys, with like, oh, this guy's got nice arms or he's got nice eyes and stuff. It just so happens that men are pigs and they talk about butts and boobs. I think that it's okay for young dudes to find people in their year level attractive. And I think it's okay to talk about how attractive they find them or who's the most attractive or whatever. But it's not great. It's not appropriate at all or acceptable to say who's the least R-wordable. Even if it is a joke, you probably shouldn't say it. But I think the only reason those guys in that group would find it funny is because they know it's a joke. But also, it's not nice by any means.
It just made me very, very angry to know that they thought that was okay and that they thought they'd be able to get away with it.
She hasn't mentioned the R-word stuff, so I don't know why. Like, obviously, we're talking about kids here, so it's gross anyway. But we're talking about young boys finding girls their age attractive. I think that's fine, right? That's what we all did, yeah?
After the group was made public, Sarah says her school organised a day-long workshop run by a mental health charity for the boys.
Is that going to really change things? Are they really going to change the way that boys think and say or speak about other students by a day's workshop on mental health? I don't know. I don't want to come across like I'm defending these boys for being gross, but dudes are going to find girls their age attractive. Is that, I don't know. She didn't actually mention the R-word stuff, like the least R-wordable. So I don't know if that was this same case. I'm not too sure.
At no point for my year level was there a mental health workshop specifically for female students on things like consent and respectful relationships and where to go if you deal with something like sexual harassment.
Well, that shouldn't be a workshop. That should be just taught. Like, maybe we need to look at the education system with those type of things. Like things like consent, obviously extremely important, and respectful relationships. These are things that not all kids see. Like, let's take respectful relationships, for example. If your parents fight all the time, yell at each other, throw things at each other, then that's what you're going to emulate. So maybe a lot of this shit and a lot of the negative attitudes that come out of boys and are displayed across to girls in schools are to blame, or you can at least trace that blame back to the parents and how they interact, how the father interacts. And I think a lot of this can be pointed directly. And maybe this is the whole point of this. Maybe the burden shouldn't be shouldered by these young men. Maybe it should be shouldered by us, who are going to teach the next generation of young men. If your father was a piece of shit, or if whoever looked after you as a child, the father figure was a piece of shit, then it's up to you to change who you are and influence your youngster or your child or your son in a positive manner. And if you fail to do that, then you fail just like your dad did. So let's not let these young kids shoulder the burden. They're kids, they're learning. We need to deal with that shit, and we need to teach our kids better. Because there are still horrible things happening, like domestic violence, like the R-word, like all that type of stuff, like ending people's lives, both men and women. And we need to, in some way, somehow, find a way to curtail that. And I don't know how we do that, but we certainly need to start at the beginning. And that is, when your child is born, you mold them into a good citizen.
I was told that silly things like this happen at every school.
Yeah, she didn't mention like the horrible story that I heard about the most un-R-wordable. So she was just saying that everyone was rating all the girls. And I know it's gross because they're high school kids, but we're talking about other high school kids rating them. People of the same age. Just let me make that fucking super clear. Let me know in the comment section if I'm a fucking idiot. But you probably already have. But is that out of touch? Is that outrageous to say? That old Johnny likes Stacey's boobs? Don't be a creep about it, but you're allowed to say you like boobs, aren't you?
Are being subjected to being photographed in classrooms without their consent, let alone listening to misogynistic jokes.
Ladies, if the jokes catch you, fucking harden up. But yeah, the photos are gross.
It's infuriating and shocking.
Siobhan, you got to change that name.
I know that some female students like Sarah will be able to deal with it, to call it out for what it is. But I worry for the others who don't feel like they have that courage. How do they continue to feel safe in their school?
Yeah, and they should feel absolutely safe at school. It's the same with bullying and stuff like that. They should feel absolutely safe. And it's a shame that they're not. That's a factual statement to make.
Teachers are finding it hard to support female students when they're also under attack. Many, like Holly Cooper, have left the profession.
I would just feel sick to my stomach, really. It just kind of got worse. I felt like I was disappointing them. It still really kills me. I felt like I should have just been a little bit better or a little bit stronger for them, or just learn how to manage.
Okay, what are we talking about here?
I was obviously aware the way that teenage boys can be, being gross or, the odd comment. I remember the distinct moment that I thought, this is different. I was teaching a year 8 class.
I'm really interested to see if this person, it does say something here that's outrageous, because so far in this video, we've seen some fucked up things, right? We've seen some not so fucked up things, but I'm really interested to see.
Geography, and a boy in the class said to me, "What do you think about third wave feminism? Do you agree that it's a failure?" And then it was like, every day he would sort of come at me with a new question. The gender pay gap is a lie, he would say.
So he was questioning feminism. Now this goes back to my wage gap thing. Third wave feminism really pushes the wage gap. Fourth wave feminism really pushes the wage gap. I wonder if this lady, who obviously considers herself a feminist, was offended by the fact that someone dared question that. Or maybe she brought something up in class that this boy disagreed with.
And then it just ended up being a thing of like, will you prove it? So I said, okay. So apart from everything else that I was doing with all of the marking and the lesson planning and everything, I was trawling through, all of this data just to prove a point, because it was just going to be, well, miss, she's just making up lies, basically. Like, women are running the world. Like, we know that this is true. Now I know that they were talking
Milo
points
Yiannopoulos?
straight out of the mouth of Milo Yiannopoulos.
They propel these myths about the wage gap.
What a rise to fame he had, and a giant fucking explode. He was like the Challenger. Challenger? What was that space rocket that blew up? That one.
He was at the time like the alt-right kind of like poster child. And he was the one that said feminism is cancer.
Milo said a lot of really interesting things, and he was very well spoken and charismatic and all that type of stuff, and funny. He said some things that are right, some things that are wrong. Sort of like Andrew Tate. He's like Andrew Tate back in 2017. Says some outrageous things. They look similar as well, but some things they say were correct.
It's not the problem of the male influencers. It's the question of, why are these messages so compelling to young boys? What is it about them that is so appealing?
I'll tell you why. It's because a lot of these young boys feel like the whole world is against them, and they shouldn't feel that way. That's not an excuse for being a violent piece of shit or anything like that. You should not be like that. I cannot stress that enough in this video, but if you tell someone you're bad or your gender's bad, and you hear that constantly, it's the same if you say it about women, like all women are sluts or whatever. Like, that's what some people say. If you tell people that all the time, they're going to feel terrible about themselves, and they're going to turn to someone who's talking to them. I make no apologies on this channel that I don't agree with all the right-wing talking points. Even though some people say that I'm a part of the right-wing pipeline and all this type of shit. No. I believe things that anyone would label a very centrist opinion. I'm on the fence about a lot of different things. I like to take the good and the bad from both sides. But I feel like people who are on the left side of the fence often pick anyone who doesn't agree with every single thing that they believe. They pick them up and they say, you are a bad person. And they're starting to do that now with kids. And you're going to see a whole generation of kids being taught that they're the enemy from a very young age. And that is disastrous. That is what is making all these young kids fall down these rabbit holes into this not toxic masculinity, but toxic personality.
26-year-old Jefferson knows what it's like to fall down a rabbit hole as a teenage boy.
I think it's good that people actually recognize that maybe they have gone down a rabbit hole, but I think what the classification of that rabbit hole is very important, because if you classify yourself as a misogynistic piece of shit, then yeah, you should probably address that, no doubt. But if you've just started listening to opinions that aren't taught by your teachers or aren't taught by your HR manager at work or aren't taught by the mainstream sort of narrative, then it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or wrong or incorrect. It just means you're thinking a little bit laterally, which in a lot of cases, as we know, is probably a good thing. But it depends, case by case.
I would call my younger self a misogynist. It started in high school.
Okay, I'm very interested to see what was his classification of why he was a misogynist.
I did find myself looking online, like how to talk to girls, how to be desirable, how to
guess that's not a bad thing. Some people need those answers.
And you find these male influencers who say that they do want to help.
Okay, and some of them are really negative. We've covered that. I think by casting the wide net of just saying these male influencers, I think it's not niche enough. You need to really call out people by name and tell me why they are negative. Because if you just say these male influencers, you could be talking about anyone.
It initially starts off very simple, very innocent, very objectively helpful, clean your room, go to the gym, work out, eat healthy.
So all of those things right there, clean your room, go to the gym, look after yourself, that type of stuff, that is all now seen as the gateway to the alt-right and the gateway to misogyny.
And then you keep watching, you get recommended something else.
I'm going to save you years of chasing after that
I don't know who this dickhead is. No idea.
Who doesn't care about you.
A lot of it's how to tell if a girl is into you. It's she'll cross her legs in your direction.
Would that mean she's not into you? If she spreads her legs in your direction, that's probably more of a cue.
And it goes down those type of rabbit holes and it starts going into it's not your fault. It's it's other people's fault. It's society's fault. It's women's fault. And then it's also your own fault because if women don't want you, then it's because you're a beta, you're not manly enough, you're too much of a nice guy.
Studies worldwide show that teenage boys are being recommended misogynist manosphere content, whether they search for it or not.
But it depends on what you classify as misogynist or manosphere content, because you could just, what I classify as misogynist is different to what the person, Siobhan, who's reporting on this, would classify.
If men are, in fact, better at everything, isn't it our job to protect women?
To be able to have a master family.
The feminist movement doesn't realize that they are the drug dealers.
Governments around the world are fighting to rein in big tech and the problematic content.
He seems very lost, this dude, and maybe he is one of those people that could be targeted by negative influences and that not be a good thing. Well, for someone to benefit from advice online, I think you have to be a strong enough person yourself to be able to determine what's right from wrong.
Former teacher Holly remembers doing a class exercise known as traffic lights, which she used to unpack healthy relationships and harmful behaviours.
They all have their cards and just, green means, yep, that's okay, I'd be comfortable with that. Amber means, oh no, I feel a bit uncomfortable, awkward about that, I'm not sure. Red means no, not acceptable.
It starts at my age. It starts at school. It starts with jokes about sexual assault, and then it builds up to domestic violence.
I disagree. I don't think it does do that. I mean, jokes don't build to anything. They end there. Someone who commits a horrific act isn't doing that because they heard a joke. It's much like just because you smoke weed, it doesn't mean you're going to do crack. Some people who do smoke weed do crack. Some people who joke do commit violence, but it doesn't mean it's going to, because the vast majority of people don't. That's not a statistically accurate statement to make, unfortunately. And it'd be great if it was, because you could realise that that is the main problem, but it's just not that.
Too many women and girls that I know, that I love, that I've shared life with and been friends with have been impacted by male violence, and especially male sexual violence.
Yeah, a lot are, and a lot still are, and it should never happen. And I know people as well, and it's horrific. And no one in my life who is a man who has done something like that remains in my life.
And for me, we need more
Simple as
boys
that.
and more men to care about that issue and to care about the things that have normalised that.
Can you see it in somebody's
I think
body
they do,
language?
and I think
Can
they
you
should.
see it in their discomfort? Maybe they never say a flat out no, but maybe they're like, not now, maybe later, not sure.
Something that came up in this session was, misogyny and sexism. Do you hear much of that from boys your own age?
I think sometimes instead of it being seen as like a serious issue, people take the piss out of it. And don't acknowledge the fact that it affects both men and women.
I feel like social media paints a picture of what we should be doing, but in reality, it's not what it's supposed to be, and it puts unrealistic pressure on boys to perform like that.
Yeah, fair point from the young fella. It's the same with things like body image. Like, dudes see guys on Instagram who are jacked up with testosterone and steroids and peptides and all that type of stuff, and a lot of the bodies that they see are not achievable. And it's the same with success and all that type of stuff. Like, you're not going to be a super successful person overnight. You're not going to see this person doing very, very well, and then you're going to be doing the same in a couple of weeks' time. It takes long years of dedication to get to a successful point. And I think when you see these type of things on social media, yeah, as a young person, you probably think, fuck, I wouldn't mind that, or that would be amazing. But also, like, we saw this shit back in the day too, like before all of this, in movies and on TV, and before that on magazines and in newspapers. We saw the opulence. Is that a good word? Yeah, that is the correct word. Well done. We saw the opulence. We saw the success of others and wanted to emulate that. So perhaps we have seen that for a long time. But yeah, it's got to be difficult out there for young dudes, as it was difficult for dudes 20, 30, 40 years ago. We all have different worries, and it's just how we navigate them, I guess. That's the most important part, and that's what we can take away from videos like what we're watching and videos like what you're watching right now, this video. What can we do to try and make the next generation of men better? And what can we do for the generation of men right now that are growing up and they're about to become adults themselves? And even the ones that are already adults, and even the ones that are older adults, we're all still malleable. We can all still change our minds. We can all still be better people. And that goes for women as well. There are a lot of women that are shit people, and they need to change, and they need to be better versions of themselves. Be kinder to the people around them. Be kinder to the men around them. And the people in charge need to be kinder to the young men and the young women out there. There's so many people that need to change, but will we see change, or do we just continue this everlasting pointing of fingers that seems to exist concurrently throughout every single generation, where the blame game is the most important game that is played?
What I hear from many young women is that they feel pressured to act in a way that many boys and young men are seeing in porn. We know, for example, that strangulation, what we call choking, has become very mainstream in sex between young people.
Young people haven't signed up for this. I didn't. I've had to unlearn a lot, and still on that journey about what porn taught me about women and how to see women.
The video continues for another 10 minutes or so and goes into detail about what parents can do, what they think parents can do, and how porn affects kids and all that type of stuff. And what the Australian government has done, and I did this video on this just last week, is basically they've decided that everyone under the age of 16 is now not allowed to access the internet unless they sign in with a digital ID, which means in turn everyone needs to sign in with a digital ID, meaning that the government can track exactly what you're watching or what you're looking at all the time, and basically attach it to your name and your face and all this type of stuff. And it's just a massive invasion of privacy. But this is how they're sort of angling all of this type of stuff. And maybe I'm being a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. Maybe that's why they're putting out content like this. And this is why the media is constantly talking about the manosphere and the worry and the concern and the great danger that is young people, young men particularly. But I don't know. I don't think we have seen a rise in hatred towards women. I think it's not a good thing in that it exists and it still exists and it's still there, but it's certainly not a rise. It's the safest time ever to be here on planet Earth for women, for men, for anyone. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, ladies and gentlemen. I know this video has been exhaustingly long, but thank you very much for joining us throughout this long discussion. Be a good motherfucker. Peace in the Middle East. Be dick stinks, and I'll see you next time. Neck time? Neck time. Goodbye.